I'm Jonathan Kaplan, a board-certified plastic surgeon based in San Francisco, and today I'm in Sacramento. I'll be speaking to the California Society of Plastic Surgeons, giving a one-hour course on social media. Social media, it's prevalent throughout all of our lives, but it's becoming more important and more useful as a plastic surgeon because you can now educate your patients in a way that you never could before, in a much more transparent way on pricing, on procedures, answering their questions in real time. So I'll be speaking to these attendees of our course today, talking to them about everything from A to Z within social media. It's a lot to cover, but I think I'll be able to do it. So even for the novice or the person who's an expert in social media, I think everybody will be able to learn something. Thanks for coming to see me today. Social media in your practice, boom or bust. Quick disclosure, I am the founder CEO of Build My Bod Health, and I am going to make a reference to some of our price transparency platforms in the presentation, but it's not really going to be focused on that at all. Mostly all social media. But I warn you, this is an overwhelming amount of information, and I don't want you to try and implement everything all at once because it's just too much, but I want you to find at least one thing that you feel like you could do today, that you can implement today, because then you'll do that one thing and then you'll get comfortable with that and then you'll build from there. But it is really, social media is where it's at. It's not a popularity contest. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter if you have that X factor. It's all about education. Really just think of it as an extension of your website or your YouTube channel. So today what we're going to talk about is a review of the platforms and content creation. We're going to talk about creating content once and repurposing it everywhere since there are so many platforms. We're going to talk about how Instagram stories and Snapchat transform our practice. And lastly, we're going to talk about growing your following, because that's what everybody always wants to know about. So first off, a review of the platforms. The platforms I'm going to be talking about are Instagram, Instagram Story, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. We're not going to be talking about Twitter. We're not going to be talking about plain old Facebook. We're going to talk about the things that are really providing an unprecedented level of education for patients. We'll get started with Instagram. Daily active users as of September 17th, 2018, Instagram 500 million. And I just want to show you what Instagram looks like. If you're really starting with the basics, what we're talking about with Instagram is here's your typical profile page on your Instagram page. So right at the top, you have your handle. I'm Real Dr. Bay because I'm a plastic surgeon in the Bay Area, but it's B-A-E, not B-A-Y, just to be hip for the kids out there, for the millennials. But I'm Real Dr. Bay, and of course I have my name right here, so you can do the same thing with your practice. You'll have one handle that's maybe catchy, and then you have your name below that. And then over here, you'll see my profile pic. It was a kind of a random photo my wife took of me when I was standing on the side of the street waiting on an Uber. And then you'll see that there's this ring around my photo. That means that I have a new story, and we'll get into Instagram stories and how you can utilize that. But that ring around there means that I have a new story that's going to be there, but expire in 24 hours. Over here, you'll see that there's a link that you can put in your bio. This whole section right here is considered your bio. You can put a link there because when you post something on Instagram, you can't actually make a link within the caption. So you'll just tell somebody in the caption under the photo that you can go click on the link in bio. So that's where that is. And you can change that on a daily basis if you want. Then over here, below that, you have your follower and following count. Now this screen on Instagram may look different than your Instagram account, but that's because they roll out different versions all the time. And this is kind of a sign of what's to come, that they're shifting the followers and the following count. They're making that less obvious. It's not at the top like it used to be. They're shifting that lower down. So just be aware that they are trying to make it less of a popularity contest and not focus so much on the followers. So that's why it may look different than your screen. Then over here below that, you have the call to action buttons where you can call the office, message the office, email the office, and you of course load all of that data in there. So when somebody clicks on call, they're calling the right number. Then over here, you'll see highlights. Now highlights, which we'll get to it a little bit later when we talk about stories. Instagram stories are those little videos that you make that expire after 24 hours. But if you don't want them to expire after 24 hours, you can then add them to highlights so that consumers can then continue to watch that for as long as they want. You can see I've categorized them between a Brazilian butt lift or things I've done with the radio station, things like that. And then over on the far left is a button for Instagram TV. Think of Instagram TV as a vertical version of YouTube. Instagram TV, this is any kind of video that's longer than 60 seconds or less than 60 minutes. And you can add that there. When you click on that, that'll bring you to Instagram TV, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. And then under there, you see all of the feed, your 3 photos. And so what I suggest you do is come up with a pattern. You'll see that all of my before and after photos with the blue background are in one column. Then I have other photos and video in one column, and then videos in another column. And the content can be, again, before and after photos, things that you're doing with home life, with your wife, things like that, or pictures in the operating room, short video clips. You can put all of that on your Instagram feed, whatever you find is engaging for your audience, and that changes for everybody. Getting into specific photos. So here you go, I have a photo. This is my wife standing, she happened to be wearing a gold skirt. We happen to be walking by a gold Rolls Royce. It's a great photo. And so you can see that's the typical screen of a Instagram post. You have the photos there, and then if you tap on the screen, that's what you see on the right side is all of these different tags and mentions where we can tag Rolls-Royce cars, tag the company that she got her clothes from, tag Louis Vuitton, the shoes that she's wearing. By tagging these different things, those people will be alerted to that, and so that's kind of how you continue the conversation, spread the word. So the idea, hopefully Rolls-Royce will see this and say, oh, we'll give you a Rolls-Royce. You tagged us. Thanks for giving us the shout out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But people really like this photo. Over 1,800 people liked the photo. Now, just to show you kind of in more closer to home how these photos and tags work, this is a photo or a post that I placed yesterday on my account for the California Society of Plastic Surgeons, mentioning that I was going to be speaking here for this social media course. And you can see that post. And if I tap on that screen, you'll see that I tagged Stanford Plastic Surgery. I tagged UC Davis. I tagged the president of the California Society of Plastic Surgeons. And then over on the bottom right, I tagged the California Plastic Surgeons. They were notified of that, and then they reposted my post on their page. And you can see they use the Repost app. It's a free app you can download. And they reposted all the same content, my photo, and then also the same caption. So it's just a way that you can tag people and give a shout out and, like I said, spread the words, continue the conversation. Some more things about an Instagram post. We talked a little bit about the caption. You can include all those different tags that you already mentioned as far as the companies that you may want, maybe the clothes you're wearing. Then below that, you have just some typical things about how you can find your office. And then over here on the right, you show all these hashtags. And with Instagram, you don't really want to use more than 30 hashtags. The nice thing about hashtags, think of them as the keywords for a Google search. So if you have a website, you have certain keywords on your website because you want Google to notice those keywords so that people who are searching for things on Google, that they will find your website because of those keywords. So hashtags are the same analogous situation on Instagram. You have hashtags, people will be able to find that on your Discover page. And I'll get to that in a second. But with the other hashtags, you need to have different hashtags for different subjects. So for example, if I'm talking about something in the operating room, I have these hashtags I've already set up that's under the category Bay. I have a different set of hashtags if it's a photo of me and my wife. I have different hashtags, for food. I have different hashtags from our dog, a different set of hashtags for my wife, or scenes of San Francisco. Now, even though I have these different categories of hashtags, you always need to make sure you're updating your hashtags to see what people are searching, what's trending, what's useful, and what will get more people to your Instagram page. And the way people find you is through this Discover page. So on the far left, if you have a photo that people are it's getting a lot of traction, it'll show up on that Discover page. And so people who come to that Discover page might see a photo or interesting video that you've posted, and then they'll go to your page based on finding you from that screen on the left. And then on the right, people can actually type in the different hashtags that they may be searching, the certain topics. And if you have those hashtags in your post, that's how they'll find you. So hashtags really are a great way. Think of it as a keyword with Google. They're a great way for people to find you, but you don't have that feeling of immediate satisfaction or immediate gratification with the hashtags because you don't really know who found you what way when it comes to Instagram posts. It does work, but you just don't know how they found you. When I get to Instagram stories, it's a much more immediate gratification, which I'll get to in a second. Now, the great thing about Instagram, which is better than Snapchat, is they have way more analytics. So if you look at this screen on the far left, you'll notice there is this menu icon in the top right. You click on that, it opens up this second screen where you can click on the Insights. And you tap on the Insights, you'll see this page right here where you can look under Audience. You can see your age range. You can see of the people that are watching or looking at your post. You can see the gender, 86% women, which is good. I'm a cosmetic plastic surgeon. That's what I'm looking for. And then you can also see your followers, and you can see when most of your followers are engaged. And stratifies it by time. So it gives you an idea of what's the best time of day to post your photo when you're going to get the most engagement. So there's some great analytics to get a good idea of when it's best to post your photos. So moving into Instagram Stories, and this is really great. Instagram Stories is really where it's at right now. Daily active users, 400 million. Snapchat, 190 million users. If you're just starting out, I would say just focus on Instagram Stories. We started on Snapchat, then Instagram Stories became a thing, and so now we're doing on both. So this is also where you get into some of the pitfalls of social media. So we're going to talk about what you should and should not do on social media, and that really comes to Snapchat and Instagram Stories. So this is what you should not do. I don't know if you remember this doctor over in Georgia. She was dancing on her videos, and this is actually from YouTube, but she's like dancing and cutting to the beat of the music. So don't do anything like this, knucklehead. This gives social media a bad name. Again, social media is about education, not about dancing on screen in the operating room. But I think that's what a lot of people who are down on social media in the operating room are thinking this is what we're doing. Whatever you're doing in the operating room normally, that's what you should do on social media. If you're educating people, educate people. I'm playing this out. This is like unbelievable. It's like you can't turn your head away from it because it's so unbelievable. And you'll notice this is on the local affiliate in Atlanta. This is what you should do on social media. So here's just a few clips. Here's me walking to work. I have my filter, which is a logo for my practice, talking about cool sculpting in the middle, talking about breast implants on the right, do tags, hashtag 400cc's. I'm actually tagging and mentioning the Mentor rep in the video on the right after we're putting in this Mentor implant. And this allows me to talk about, before and after photos. It talks about preoperative planning, as you can see in the video on the left. You can see the cool sculpting in the middle, me doing a perioperative, a circumvertical lift on the right. Now, all these filters you see, like the person in the middle with the clown nose, that's all done within the app. You don't have to download this, then do post-production editing. This is all done within Snapchat and Instagram. They allow you to put up those different tags and hashtags, these different graphics, the Bitmojis, the filters of things. That's all done within the app. So again, even though this might look overwhelming about all the different things you can do, just be happy it's not something you have to download and then add those graphics after. You can do it all within the app. So if you look at these videos, these are engaging. These are kind of like raw and fascinating and interesting. Compare that to the videos on your own website that are very curated, a little bit more boring. Whereas this is what patients want. They want to see the raw footage, but this isn't as raw as you might think. I'm choosing to put this on social media. So I don't want you to think it's a free-for-all and just everything goes up there. We'll talk about that in a second, about how Instagram Stories and Snapchat is a little bit different than Instagram Live and Facebook Live. But this, you're able to curate what you put on there. It just looks raw. So patients are only seeing what you want them to see. Here's another example of me. Every morning I walk to work, and you see I just introduce myself every single morning. I use my filter that's from Snapchat. You can pay for a filter like that, where you can you can upload a logo to Snapchat, and you can use that on your screen. You just swipe left and you can get to that filter. And you'll notice up at the top, as I mentioned, hashtags, really useful in Instagram posts. They're more useful for Instagram Stories, as I mentioned before, because if you look at the fact that I've hashtag liposuction, well, whenever you swipe up as the content creator, when I swipe up on my screen, you'll see this image on the right, where I can see how many views I've gotten for each clip of video that I've posted. And you'll notice up towards the top, I can see that 67 people found me because of that hashtag liposuction. They were looking for something for liposuction and they found me. So that's why I was talking about there's more instant gratification with stories, because you see exactly who found you based on what hashtags. Whereas with posts, you're not exactly sure which hashtag brought them in. But now I know that 67 people watch this because of the hashtag liposuction. Again, this screen where I swipe up and I look at the different people who are watching me, I see the analytics, I see the number of people who have watched each video. Only I can see that. Other people can't see that on my account. I can't see their account, they can't see my account. So I get this feedback just for me. You'll notice also at the bottom, I also tagged San Francisco, California, and that brought in 6 viewers. So obviously not as much as 67, but it's 6 more people that may not have found me if they weren't looking for San Francisco. So that's what's really great about Instagram Stories, is that you can hashtag people, you can get that immediate gratification, and you can see who's watching you and how they found you. And what's really cool is who is watching your stories, since you can see that. So this is just a video clip. It's of when we went to a baseball game, and you'll see that we tagged baseball at the bottom, hashtag baseball, and this is just a GIF that you're able to add. And when I swipe up, only I can see this. You can see that I can see all the different video clips. I can see that 147 people found my story because of baseball. And now what I'm looking at is all the people that are watching my story. It could be a spouse, employee, brother, friend's wife, former employer, sister, patient, patient's husband, niece. These are all the people that are watching the story. I'm just not pointing out which ones, who is which one. But this is really fascinating how you can see everybody that's watching. And then the other thing you'll notice is that when you're looking through it, you'll also see that there's doctors watching. There's other competition in your community that are watching. There's med spas watching. So it gives you this really interesting feedback, because a lot of these people who are watching your stories, they won't ever like your posts. And I don't know what it is that's psychologically, but maybe they don't like your post because everybody will see who likes your post. But if they and they don't want to give you that satisfaction. But if they watch your story, nobody else can see who's watching your story except the content creator. So it is interesting, the people that will watch your stories only and never like your post. And I get more views on my stories every day than I do post on my photos. So it's just really interesting what people prefer, what medium people prefer, whether it's stories or whether it's the actual posts. So here's some other great ways that you can engage people on Instagram. So on the far left, we put up a quiz where we said, what's your favorite type of croissant, as though there was a right answer. And you can swipe up, we can swipe up and we can see how many people actually voted or answered this quiz. Most people voted for chocolate. I can see who answered the quiz. I can see the viewers who just saw the story, but who didn't necessarily answer that quiz. But anyway, it's a great way to gauge people, to get them to want to know what you're doing, to watch you, to actually take a stand and decide which croissant they like best. Here's another example of how I engage people in the middle. Is I'm walking to work and I say, which size implant should we use on this patient, 425 or 450? Obviously, I'm not going to take the word of the viewers, but they weighed in and most of them said 425 cc. So it was nice to see that people were interested in the smaller size implant. Anyway, again, just a great way to engage these people who are watching your stories and make sure that they're paying attention. On the far right is a post from my wife's Instagram story. She's a fashion blogger at Kelsey Kaplan Fashion, if you want to follow her. But anyway, she posted something on her story, and that's the nice thing about it, is that when somebody posts something on their story and they tag you, you're able to share their story on your own story. So anyway, she tagged me. I was able to share her story on my story, and in her poll that she did, she asked people to vote on which dress she should wear for a Kentucky Derby party the next day. And as you can see, most people voted A, 70% for the dress on the left. That was the dress she wore. We went to a Kentucky Derby party and she actually ended up winning best dress. We didn't even know there was a competition at it, but it was just kind of funny that she was able to go back to her followers and say, y'all voted and y'all were right, or 70% of you were right. So again, great ways to engage these people on Instagram stories. In this example, I'm doing liposuction, and I tell people, swipe up on the screen. They physically just swipe up on the screen to be taken to whatever link I'm linking to. And in this case, I'm linking to my website. They can get back to my website, and then they can go to either a blog post about liposuction, or I can take them directly to the blog post about liposuction. So again, me as the content creator, if I swipe up, I can see my analytics, I can see who's watching. If the consumer swipes up, then we can take them to whatever website we deem appropriate based on that particular video clip. Now, these video clips are 10 to 15 second video clips on Snapchat or Instagram stories, and you piece them together, and over the course of a day, over 24 hours, those pieced together videos make up your story, and then they expire after 24 hours. And as I mentioned, Instagram stories, even though they expire after 24 hours, you can save them as a highlight on your page so people can continue to watch it. So you're probably thinking, why am I going to go to all this trouble if it's going to expire after 24 hours? I'll get to that in a second, how you can make it last longer in other ways as well. But anyway, as far as the swipe up, any content creator on Snapchat can allow the consumer to swipe up and link to a website. With Instagram stories, you have to have at least 10,000 followers. So even though I said this wasn't a popularity contest, you probably should find a way to get to 10,000 followers, and I'll talk to you about that as far as growing your following. To get to at least 10,000 followers, that way you can allow people to swipe up and take them to whatever website you want, because it is a great call to action button, and you should definitely take advantage of it if you can. Moving on to Facebook Live, and to a lesser extent, Instagram Live. Obviously, Facebook is the elephant in the room. They're huge. And with Facebook Live, the thing you have to understand is that this is streaming live, okay? And here's an example of Rich Castellano, who we were talking about earlier. He puts a lot of things on Facebook Live, and now he's doing more on Instagram Live, but he puts all of his injections live on Instagram and on Facebook, and people can ask questions while he's doing these injections. And he does it live, and then it stays there live in perpetuity, as long as he wants to have it on there on Facebook. On Instagram Live, if you do that, it stays there for 24 hours and it disappears. But with Facebook Live, it does stay there forever. Now, here's another example of him, another thing he does on Facebook Live. It's a Sunday, it happens to be St. Patrick's Day. He's doing a Facebook Live session from home, selling people his book. And what's the most natural thing to do next? Do 1,000 burpees all on Facebook Live. And so that's what he's doing to engage with his audience, is do 1,000 burpees. And that's what the rest of this presentation is. We're going to watch him do 1,000 burpees now. Just kidding. I know that might seem crazy for all of us to do 1,000 burpees, but it works for him. He has a lot of patients coming in. Now, this is me doing an Instagram Live. The way I use Instagram Live is, again, this is streaming live. I do it for special occasions. So I was at the radio station, I was on air, and we just recorded. I was on air for about, 20 to 30 minutes. We recorded that on Instagram Live. So it was live then, and then people were able to then go back and rewatch it for another 24 hours before it expired. Again, Instagram Live expires after 24 hours. Facebook Live stays there. So again, one critical distinction between Instagram Stories and Snapchat, they're quasi-live, as I mentioned before. They're 10 to 15 second video clips that you record, and then you can choose to upload them. If it's like the clip isn't exactly what you want, you don't like the video, then you just discard it. Nobody ever sees it with Snapchat or Instagram Stories. With Facebook Live or Instagram Live, it's live, they saw it. So if you drop an implant on Snapchat or Instagram Stories, nobody will see it because you won't post that, obviously. If you drop an implant on Facebook Live or Instagram Live, too late, they saw it. All right, we've kind of covered the platforms. We'll go back and talk about some of the basics of what I've reviewed in some applications later on in the presentation. But next, I want to talk about creating content once and repurposing everywhere. So again, you've put these things on Snapchat, on Instagram Stories. I told you they expire in 24 hours. Why would you do this? How can you use it? I talked to you about how you can use it on your highlights on Instagram. You can save it there, but there's other ways to take that video, that content that you've created, and repurpose it elsewhere. So let's say we've put something on Snapchat and Instagram Stories. Here is an example of me doing a semi-neck lift. It's a particular type of neck lift that I developed, but also a buccal lipectomy. So I'm talking about that. This is part of my Snapchat or Instagram story. So it expires after 24 hours, but what I did is I downloaded that whole story. I can do that as the content creator. I can download that story. The consumer can't download my story. They can take a screenshot maybe, but not download the whole story. So what I do is I download the whole story, and then I upload it to YouTube, and now that buccal lipectomy video is on YouTube in perpetuity. Well, now that it's on YouTube, I can then put it on a blog post about buccal lipectomy, and I can embed that buccal lipectomy video from YouTube into that blog post, and then I can share that blog post on LinkedIn. I can share that blog post on Facebook. I can share that blog post on Twitter and bring people back to my blog post to read about buccal lipectomy. I can take that same video clip or the before and afters and post it to Instagram. I can actually post a 60-second video clip, up to 60 seconds, on regular Instagram as a post by itself. But in this case, I posted the before and afters of her neck lift and her buccal lipectomy. And then you can also post that video on Instagram TV. Now, Instagram TV, again, is just a vertical version of YouTube. YouTube is more of the letterbox video. Instagram TV is more of a vertical video. And so I can take all those videos and post it to Instagram TV. And you'll see Instagram TV, the logo is down at the bottom left. And if the consumer taps on that, then they'll be brought to my Instagram TV channel. And there it is. You can see that buccal lipectomy where the consumer can watch that. So that's just another way you can repurpose that video. And then there's also, if you're feeling really spunky, you can put it on TikTok, which is a relatively new social media platform. TikTok, I'm not saying that it's necessarily useful for everybody, but with TikTok, you can put on videos, upload the same video, the buccal lipectomy, you can set music to it. It's just another platform for the millennials out there. But anyway, so what I've done is I've taken one clip of video and I've repurposed it in 13 different ways. So that's why you shouldn't feel like, oh, this is going to expire in 24 hours. It's a waste of time. You can definitely use this for so many other purposes. Moving on, I want to talk about how Instagram, so we've talked about these platforms. I want to talk about how they've transformed my practice between Instagram Stories and Snapchat in particular. And I broke this down into 5 different ways. First off, there's the patient rapport aspect. Through this video, the consumer can see us in our natural habitat. They can see what we want to show them, but it feels less curated. It feels more real. It makes the doctor feel more approachable because I'm talking to them on screen. It's not me standing behind a desk and with my coat on and pulling the book out of the shelf like people do in all those terrible law firm commercials. But anyway, by the time the patient arrives for the consult, they feel like they know you. They feel like they know your staff. It's unbelievable how people come in and they'll say hi to the front office staff because they recognize them from the Instagram stories or Snapchat. And then this is kind of one example of how I introduce myself to patients. On a morning basis, I always introduce myself, but then I can show them all my certificates on the wall, talk about how I'm a board certified plastic surgeon. We can talk to them about how we have non-surgical fat reduction. We can use that filter from Snapchat that has our logo on it. We can show them our in-office operating room. So you can really just kind of show them the lay of the land and how things are done in your office and how they can feel like they get to know you before they even come in for a consultation. The second part of it is the patient education and the transparency. Because consumers, who are watching, they're getting that ultimate education. They're feeling they're watching live video. Of course, it's 10 to 15 second video clips that you've chosen to upload, so it's not live, but it's still very real to them. And the video suggests that you're competent, that you have nothing to hide, that you're transparent. And at some point, I feel like this is going to be more useful than those grades that you see on different websites when they grade a doctor, because you can see a grade for a doctor, or you can go watch them doing the operation that they may do on you, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable because you're watching them in the moment doing those procedures. And also, as I mentioned with the Rich Castellano Facebook Live video, the viewers have an opportunity to ask questions during the procedure. Obviously, I'm not typing on my phone during the procedure, but I can answer that question through a video while I'm doing the procedure. And that's very helpful for the viewer to kind of know what's going on. The other thing that's really cool is that typically when you operate on a patient, the family leaves, they go to breakfast or something, and when they come back, you go out to the waiting room and you tell them what you just did. That's normally what happens. Now, they've been watching this whole story while you've been in the operating room, and so when they come back in the waiting room and you go to tell them what you just did, they're like, oh yeah, we saw the whole thing, we watched it, it was amazing. And they start asking more intelligent questions about the procedure, about what you were doing, and maybe how that's going to affect post-operative care. So it's fascinating how the families are watching these procedures, and not only the families, when the patients wake up in the recovery room, they're pulling out their iPhone and they're watching the operation they just had. It's unbelievable level of transparency and education. And here's just an example of me doing a procedure. I can talk about how I do an injection of local anesthesia in the IMF incision, talk about how we cover the nipples to reduce bacterial count. That's also helpful because if you expose nipples on Instagram, they'll ding you and eventually maybe take you off. And just talking about how I dissect the pocket. You'll notice that I'm always looking at the patient when I'm doing a procedure. I'm never doing something on the patient and looking at the camera. Just want to make that very clear. Another way that this has really transformed our practice is in generating leads. So social media can be very passive in the sense that you're just feeding this content monster, always providing so much content, and you're hoping that somebody will reach out and say, oh yeah, I'd like to come in for a consult. But I want to talk to you about how you can be more proactive in generating leads, because if you get those leads, these are patients that are more interested in what you're doing because they're on your page for a reason. And then you basically find the best way to get them back to your website so you can find out who they are. And this is really one of the biggest ways I've generated leads is through social media. And when you get them back to your website, you can have them sign up for your newsletter, sure. You can have them fill out a contact us form. But the thing that's been the most useful for my practice is that when they get back to our website, we have a Get a Quote Now button on the website. And the consumer is always asking about pricing, which I'll show you an example of right here. But those are all great ways to get them back to your website to generate a lead. Now, the thing is, price is what it comes down to. I'm not saying that's the only pain point, but price is the ultimate pain point. And there's obviously more important things, there's board certification, experience, I get that. But the thing that patients are asking about is pricing. So it's a great way to get them back to your website and generate a lead from them. So let me show you how I do that. Because whenever you post a video or before and after photo, people always ask how much it costs. And I'll show you an example of what not to do. Here's a doctor that posted a mommy makeover, and after he does that, the patient asks, how much does that cost? Gail Pretty Lips wants to know how much that costs. The doctor, thinking he's being a nice guy, tells her, oh, it's a range of $8,300 to $15,000. Okay, that first of all, that's like not very helpful to give somebody a range that big. But more importantly, he's kind of giving the milk away for free. He's told them the price, and he has no way of finding out who Gail Pretty Lips is. Sure, he could go to Gail Pretty Lips' Instagram page and follow up with her a week later and say, hey, would you like to come in for a consult? But that's kind of like stalking. Gail Pretty Lips doesn't want you coming to her page. She wants you to answer her questions on your page, not come bothering her on her page. So he gave up the opportunity to find out who this person was when he just threw out the price. Now, the right way to answer those questions is what I'm going to show you now. Here's a post that I put on Instagram, and somebody asked, how much would that run? How much would that cost? And so instead of us telling them the price, we said, go to our website and check pricing. And so what happens is when they go to our website, they see that Get a Quote Now button at the top. She was particularly interested in a Brazilian butt lift, so she can add that Brazilian butt lift to her wish list. And then when she goes to the wish list, she doesn't see any of the pricing yet. She has to submit the wish list first. And to submit a wish list, you have to create a free account with all of your demographic information. And she has to opt in to allowing us to follow up with her. They fill out all that demographic information. And this is this real patient. She submits a wish list. And what happens is when she submits a wish list, an email is sent automatically to her and to my office staff. And in that email, we see the patient's name. Again, this is that same patient that asked me that question on Instagram, kind of following her through the whole process. We see her email address and phone number, and then we get her information, and then we follow up with her. She didn't come in immediately, but we educated her over the course of about 4 months, and eventually she came in for a Brazilian butt lift, and this is that patient that asked that question on Instagram that day. And so she was allowed us to put it all on social media. This is not in fast forward. I am actually this fast. But anyway, she was happy. So happy that she wrote us a 5-star Yelp review. And of course, I'd only show you this 5-star Yelp review because it's 5 stars. But anyway, she talked about how happy she was with the practice. But one of the things she explicitly mentioned is how happy she was that we provided pricing on the website. This is a huge patient satisfier. I get people are worried about showing pricing and that people will not understand it's an estimate, but it says it's an estimate when they get their email. And it's really frustrating to tell a person, though, you won't tell them the price until they come in for a consultation. It's just not the way consumers are used to thinking these days. Now, let me show you another way that you can use that method of capturing contact information through Instagram direct messaging. And I subtitled this The Millennial Experience because millennials want to do everything they can on their phone in an automated way without having to communicate with anybody until the very last second. And quite frankly, I don't know why we say that's the millennial, that's the way the millennials are, because I think that's how everybody is. I think everybody would love to be able to get information automatically, quickly as possible through their phone without having some customer service problem. So here's an example of a millennial that messages me through Instagram direct messaging, and this happens every day that people are messaging us. They message us and say, hey, I'm in Modesto, California. I'm interested in a quote for a mommy makeover and a Brazilian butt lift. Now, doctors normally would answer this question in 2 ways, both of which are wrong. First, they'll say, oh, you got to come in for a consultation before we can give you that pricing, and that just aggravates the hell out of the consumer. The other way is to do what that other doctor did and just give them the price, but again, you've lost the opportunity to find out who they are. So what we do in our practice is when somebody asks that price, no problem. We give them a link to go directly back to our website to that specific procedure that they're asking about, so it gets them one step closer. It's kind of like the Amazon idea that if you get an abandoned cart email from Amazon, the email comes and say, hey, you left these shoes in your cart, click on this link to go back and buy them. When you click on that link, it doesn't just take you to Amazon.com and then you got to go back and find those shoes. It takes you directly back to those shoes. That's what we do here, is if they ask about a price for a specific procedure, we bring them to that specific procedure to minimize the number of steps they have to take. And this person, this is the same person, then submitted a wish list. We saw that she was interested as soon as possible. We get this email, she gets this email. We see that she's interested in a mommy makeover deluxe. That's what we call a mommy makeover with a Brazilian butt lift. You see, she sees all the pricing. We see her name, email, address, phone number. We see that she's also from Modesto, California, so it is that same patient. And then the conversation doesn't end there. She then says, well, great, now that I've seen the price, how soon can I get it done? And I was like, this is a big operation, slow down. First off, we need to see you. You can either see you at an in-person consult or a FaceTime consult, but either way you can book online. So you see, having this whole conversation, giving her all the important information on the phone, instant information, automatic, instant gratification. This is a great customer service experience so far, and we haven't even met this person. So we tell her she can book online. She does book online. We get a notification that she's booked online for 2 days later. And then we have a FaceTime consult, and she understands everything. She's done a lot of research. She's already gotten the price on it. She's a candidate for the procedure she's interested in, and she books and pays in full for a Mommy Makeover Deluxe at the time of this consultation because she came into it knowing how much it was going to cost, and she's already been watching me on social media, so she feels like she knows me. So I understand it seems unreasonable that somebody would have a consultation via FaceTime and book and pay in full that at that moment. If you're looking at this 5 years ago, I would agree with you. That is unreasonable. But in this day and age, there's not much more they're going to be able to learn about me if they came in for an in-person consult. I am who I am on Instagram stories, on Snapchat. They felt like they know me. It's a reasonable expectation. As far as the pricing issue and that whole discussion, I did write a paper that was published in a peer-reviewed journal. It's open source. You can download it and read it. You don't have to pay for it. It's Annals of Plastic Surgery. Actually, I got it published through the California Society of Plastic Surgeons. But we talked about price transparency in the online age. And one of the things that we mentioned in this study is that the consumers that come in for a consultation that are price aware, they are 41% more likely to book a procedure than non-price aware patients. So that makes sense. The people coming in know price are less likely to have sticker shock, but probably nobody would believe that statistic until we publish it in a paper. So now you see it in black and white, and so now you know it's true. But it really does make for a much more efficient consultation process. So anyway, as far as generating leads, I've generated so many leads by people just wanting to know price. We get their contact information each time they ask about it. When I took over this practice 6 years ago, there was only 200 email addresses in the database. And now I've got over 9,300 emails in my email marketing database. So from 200 to 9,300. And the reason it's so important for you to build your own email marketing database is that it makes you less dependent on digital marketing. So for example, if you look at Facebook, we're talking about social media, we'll talk about some social media advertising. This is an example of a Facebook ad or creating a Facebook ad. And this is when you advertise on Facebook, you're not advertising all 2 billion people on Facebook, you're targeting a specific demographic. So you'll see in the top left corner where I was looking at marketing to San Francisco in a 10-mile radius. And then you pick the interest of people that you want to target. So like shopping and fashion, women's health, fitness and wellness. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find people that I think are interested in cosmetic surgery. Therein lies the problem. Facebook has this huge trove of data, but you can't actually market specifically to people that are interested in cosmetic surgery because that's not one of the things that Facebook asks you about. Ask the consumer about. So you don't actually know who you're marketing to. You're hoping that there's some overlap in the Venn diagram between women's fitness and health and cosmetic surgery, but you don't really know. So first off, you're advertising to people that you approximately think are interested in your services. And the thing is, after I kind of did this ad, and I didn't run it, but I was building it and looking at it, I found that the estimated reach was 3,600 to 9,600 people. I already told you that my own email marketing database is 9,300. And it's got their name, email address, phone number, city, state, zip code, and procedures of interest. That's what my database has. So why would I use Facebook if they can only approximately tell me who I'm advertising to, that they're not necessarily interested in cosmetic surgery, whereas I know all of my 9,300 people are all interested in cosmetic surgery because they either contacted my office or they were checking pricing on cosmetic procedures. So that way I don't have to pay for Facebook ads now because I've got my own email marketing database, which is way less expensive to send out email newsletters every month. So the moral of the story is, don't give away the milk for free. If somebody wants to know pricing, capture their contact info in the process, build a huge email marketing database, reduce your dependence on Facebook or any kind of social media advertising. And more importantly, you want to build a huge email database because just like we know, Google's algorithm changes and you might not be showing up on the first page of the Google searches anymore. The Instagram algorithm can change and people may not be finding your page anymore. So if you aren't being found and you have no email marketing database, then you're kind of left with wondering what you're going to do next. So that's why I think of my email marketing database as a little bit of an insurance policy. So I wanted to talk about also how it's transformed my practice as far as the pay it forward mentality. Somebody was asking earlier, is it hard to get patients to agree to be on social media? Well, the thing is, most of the patients that are coming to me for a consultation have already been watching a lot of video on, not even necessarily my account, but from a lot of doctors' accounts. So they're watching video, they're learning about the procedure. So they kind of, in their mind, think, oh, this person who's on video right now was willing to show their procedure to educate people. Well, then I'm probably going to be more in that kind of pay it forward mentality, that if they're willing to do that, I'm willing to do that. And we have patients who will give us a list of songs they want us to play during their operation, so that that's playing in the background on social media. Patients ask for their videos after. So it is really surprisingly easy to get consent for these patients to be on social media. And then lastly, I want to talk about referrals and how this has transformed my practice. So of course, there's word of mouth. People are watching my stories. They'll tell a friend, oh, you got to watch this guy's story. He's great. He did a rhinoplasty today. You could hear the bone crack and everything. That's the kind of thing patients are interested in these days. But the other thing is there's the mentions by patients, mentions, and then the patient selfies. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So here's a patient I operated on, Ilika, it was her name, and she put on her story, for all those people who are asking about my surgery, Real Dr. Bay did it. So she gave that shout out on her story because she tagged me. I was alerted to that, and then I was able to share her story on my story saying thanks for the shout out. And then I also noticed that a few days after that, she changed her name from Ilika to Lika Fine Ass. And I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe it had something to do with her feeling a little more proud of her body. But anyway, this is what patients are okay with talking about this now. They're okay with letting people know that they had this operation. That taboo, I'm not saying not everybody feels like this, of course, but it is becoming less taboo as far as talking about your procedures. Another thing that patients can do that really help you out as far as marketing, this patient I operated on, she did a whole YouTube video on her YouTube channel about her experience coming to our office and everything. She traveled from out of town, out of the state. Anyway, she did a YouTube testimonial about it. She told us that we could share it. So we took a screenshot from her YouTube page, her YouTube video, and put it on our Instagram post, and she was totally fine about it, and we referred people back to her YouTube channel. So that's kind of like this whole, just kind of building this community of the patients giving you a little shout out. Another patient sent us a patient selfie. Consumers love patient selfies. They just feel like it's very real as opposed to the staged photo of before and after in front of a black screen. So this patient, she was proud of her breast and her tummy. She sent us her selfie. We put a small before photo in the corner, and patients, consumers, followers love photos like this. You can tell this is a lot of work though, doing all this social media. It is a lot of work. So you really have to have employee buy-in. All the employees must participate. You can't do it by yourself. So we've actually made it part of the interview process to emphasize how important this is and being part of our practice. So Jan came into the office a couple of years ago for her interview, and we said, we didn't tell her ahead of time she's going to have to do something on social media. She's like, do something funny. And she started juggling the breast implant she saw in the exam room. And we hired her, and she was awesome. And unfortunately, she just left to go back to nursing school. But we were able to pick the right person because she did great on social media and was totally unencumbered and not nervous about being on social media during her initial job interview. And then the last part I want to talk about as far as on the agenda is growing your following. And I've broken this down into a few different parts. There's different ways to grow your following. There's, obviously putting up great content, things that everybody says that those platitudes, but I want to get more specific and give you some more actionable tips. So as far as growing your following, you can have influencer pages, influencers, and then other. So let's start with the influencer pages. So on Instagram, there's Plastic Surgery Instagram, and they have, over 390,000 followers, probably more by now. And what they do is that you can pay them and they will post your before and after photos or your videos on their page. And they post about 5 doctors per day. And based on their stats, that they found that most doctors who use their services will cross the 10,000 follower mark after 12 months. And then once they get over 15,000 followers, then that's when they start to feel the return on their investment. So that's one influencer page where you can send them your photos and they'll share it for you. Another example, who I've also used in the past, I've used Plastic Surgery Instagram. I've used Real Dr. Miami. He's a plastic surgeon in Miami, of course, of all places. And what he does is he's got his own Instagram, the Real Dr. Miami. That's his own kind of practice page. But then he has a separate page called Dr. Miami Land, where you can also send photos to them, and they will repost your photos each week. And they post 3 doctors per day, so a total in Monday through Friday, so a total of 15 doctors that they work with. And they will repost those 3 doctors per day. And what they found is that because they have over 500,000 followers, that they found that they can help you with your Instagram growth. Their stats are 4,300% increase with Instagram, and with Snapchat over 2,400%. So by you working with these influencer pages, it can help spread your brand and get connected with patients that didn't know you existed before. Then influencers, these are people who aren't really famous, but they're Insta famous. And so these are people you can specifically work with who can promote your brand on a one-on-one basis. So let me show you some examples of social media influencers you can work with. And I've crossed out their names because I'm not trying to say anything good or bad about them, and not sure if they really want to be part of the presentation, but they are on a public Instagram page. So that's why I just want to use their profiles for demonstration purposes. So this particular person, she has 390,000 followers. She is verified by Instagram with that blue check mark. And what she did is she did a collaboration with a plastic surgery group here in California. And I show you these two photos. The one in the middle is the post that she did when she was promoting that plastic surgery group. Now, I'm kind of suggesting things that you should look out for when you're working with an influencer, just to make sure you're on the same page, make sure you're going to get the best bang for your buck. So this is what I'm kind of trying to give you some pearls of wisdom. I'm not saying she did anything wrong or that they did anything wrong, but I'm just suggesting ways that you can get the most out of your collaboration. So in the middle photo, you'll notice that she has this outfit on with some Chanel earrings. It has nothing to do with plastic surgery. So people who are scrolling through Instagram may just like her outfit and tap on it and like it and keep scrolling and not read the caption. And they will have no idea that she did something with a plastic surgeon. So you may want to do this if you're going to be working with an influencer. Make sure whatever post they put on their page has something to do with plastic surgery, that people will stop and see what they're talking about. The other thing is, you'll notice in the location up at the top of her Instagram post, I blacked it out partly, but she mentions that her location is this plastic surgery group. That's great. But then I noticed several hours later, she changed it from that plastic surgery group to her location being the Bay Area. And that's fine. I don't know why she did that. But the problem is, as I showed you earlier, when you tap on the post, that's when you can see the different tags and the mentions and things like that. So now what she did is she changed the location from that plastic surgery group to Bay Area. So now for the consumer to know that she was at a plastic surgery practice, they would have to tap on the screen, and that's what you're seeing on the right is all those different mentions that she has included in her photo. So it's just one more step for the consumer to realize that this has anything to do with plastic surgery. But as far as getting past that, the collaboration she did is they did a giveaway. And the giveaway was that if you like her photo and you like the photo on the other, the plastic surgery group's Instagram page, and you follow her and you follow that plastic surgery group's Instagram page, and then you tag 2 friends. And by the way, if this sounds confusing, it's really not. This is kind of, everybody does these sort of giveaways these days. But I went through and I counted, and it looked like 57 people entered the giveaway by tagging 2 friends. So, whether they got any referrals out of that, I don't know. If they got a return on their investment, I don't know. But they got 57 people entered and tagged 2 friends each. So they are spreading the word. And if you're talking about dermaplaning, how much does that cost? So I would argue that this was a good return on investment, even though I have no idea what their response was, because of the fact that they were having a lot of people enter the giveaway, and dermaplaning doesn't cost much. So let me show you another example of a collaboration that I thought was really good. This girl's got 205,000 followers. And if you look at this photo down here in the corner, I'll blow it up for you. She was promoting Skin Spirit Skincare Clinic and Spa. She did Kybella with them, and you can see she's kind of jutting out her jaw to kind of show off her results. And she was proud of her Kybella results, and so she wanted people to know about this particular clinic. And so what she did, and as I mentioned to you how you can include a link in your bio, because the links don't work if you put it in your caption. So she told people to go to the link in her bio, which is over here on the left. And when you click on that link in her bio, it brings up a blog post that she wrote about Kybella. So this is a pretty good collaboration. She's giving them a shout out on her Instagram page. It's kind of clear what she's talking about because she's trying to show off her jawline. She tells people to check the link in her bio. It comes to a blog post that she wrote. So this is a pretty good collaboration. And I'm guessing all they did in exchange was give her the Kybella for free. I guess. I don't know. So other ways you can, you don't have to always do those types of deep collaborations with social media influencers. You can also do shout outs. Here's a guy that went to a practice in Newport Beach. I did talk to them. They told me I could mention them, Pacific Center with Dr. Nichter and Dr. Horowitz. And so this guy came in. He's got 226,000 followers. He came in for some Botox, and he took a selfie while they were doing the treatment. And then Pacific Center posted that selfie on their page. Now, if that was what they agreed upon, that they were going to post that on their page, that's fine. Because I noticed that on his Instagram page, there's no post that looks like that. He did not show any post on his Instagram feed of him getting Botox. And if that was the agreement, then that's fine. Maybe all he said he was going to do is take the selfie and put it on his Instagram stories. It's only going to be there for 24 hours. They were okay with that. That's fine. But you just need to make sure you're on the same page with this influencer, that what you're going to do in exchange for them promoting your practice, that everybody's on the same page. If they say they're just going to put it in their stories for 24 hours, okay, and that's fine. Or if they're going to put it on their feed that's going to be there forever, that's great. Just make sure everybody's on the same page. Here's a girl who promoted herself in a doctor's office about getting breast augmentation. Pretty straightforward and simple. This is a really good shout out because she was clearly getting some cosmetic procedure done, laser hair removal, and she clearly gives this doctor's location a shout out. So this is kind of a good, simple shout out that you should want to look for if you work with an influencer. This is my favorite shout out. This is a patient of mine. She admits that it's her. She came in to see me. She posts talking about how she's going to get her BBL for me, and she gives me a shout out on her page. She's on the radio and she's got a big following, and she gives me a shout out, and all of a sudden after she gives me this shout out, I get the notification, and all of a sudden I'm getting hundreds of new followers. So this was a great collaboration that had no payment involved. I didn't even know she was doing it. This was before she ever got an operation. I'm not going to say whether she got the operation or not, but this was a pretty awesome shout out that I didn't have to pay for, and there was no exchange of a discounted procedure or anything like that. So now I want to talk to you about the bots. These are ways to sniff out an illegitimate social media influencer. So here is a social media influencer that contacted me that said she worked with a dating app and that they were doing these on-site events. And she said, I'd like to work with you and we can cross promote. I've got 264,000 followers. I'll promote your practice to them. I'll come to your office. We'll have an event at your office. And I was like, okay, sure, that sounds fine. And then if you look at one of her posts, she had 17,000 likes. Wow, that sounds like she's got really good engagement. And then she's got 214 comments on a post. But then after the event, I started to notice some things, and I'll get into that in a second. But these are some things I did notice right off the bat. That in a post, for example, she's talking about Election Day, that she did a collaboration with Vote Together USA, some nonprofit organization, I guess. So she's like telling people to go vote. That's great. That's a good message. Well, if you look at the comments by this person, Luz Ronexi, she has a laughing emoji and 2 hearts. Well, there's nothing funny or lovely about Election Day. That comment makes no sense. Then if you go look at Luz Ronexi, she's only got 9 posts. She's 19, from Colombia, and has a private account. So this may be a fake account. But the thing is, even if it's not a fake account, this person in Colombia is not coming to see you. So this person who says they're an influencer is not doing you any good. So let's look at some other comments she had on that same post about voting. She had Julianne.7, which when they have numbers behind their name, that's a suggestion that it's fake. But Julianne.7 made 3 different comments, all 3 that made no sense. And then you look at her, she's from Venezuela with 9 posts and her account is private. If she's not a bot, it doesn't matter. She's still not coming to see us. So this person's influence is worthless, and so far. So that's when I started, I noticed when she said she was going to do this event at my office, she said, yeah, I'm going to promote you. She promoted me on her social media, and then I started getting all these bots to my account. And it was like, ended up being about 200 bots, but it was enough to notice. So these are the kind of, whatever real people, obviously not real, that she was sending my way. She sent one person my way that started following me that had 0 posts and was dressed up like Scar from the Lion King. She sent me this, what looks like a Caucasian woman, nurse, that writes in Arabic. That makes no sense. She then sends me the entire AGAC family to start following me, AGAC 12, AGAC 11, AGAC 10, 9, 8, 7. So these are bots that she's sending me. And that's when I was like, well, come on now. And I had a polite conversation with her, a diplomatic conversation, saying, stop doing this. But this is the other thing that's kind of fascinating about the bots she was sending my way. So as I showed you, if I swipe up, I can see all the number of views I've got on my different clips of my Instagram stories. You'll notice it's like 4,300 views, and it's going down very little. In a normal story, you have a natural attrition. People get bored, short attention span. But here, it was really staying at about like the low 4,300s, the high 4,200s. That's because it was all bots that were watching my story, and they weren't like, they just kind of were programmed to continue watching your story. The other thing that was interesting was when you look at the viewers, this was one that looked like a bot just by the name, and they had a circle around it, which I told you before that a circle around your name means they have a story. So I was like, I never knew a bot could have a story. This was what their story was. It was a screenshot of just gibberish. So bots can have stories too that make no sense. I've got 4,400 people watch my story, and nobody took any action. Nobody like went forward or back or tapped on a mention that I had. So these are really all bots, and this person's influence is really worthless. So the way you can find these things out now, and this is kind of the tools I'm talking to you about, is those are some things to look for, but then here's some actual tools you can use. So this is called igaudit.io. It's a website where you can plug in a name and it'll tell you how much their real follower percentage is. So I just plugged in a couple famous people. Drake had 73% real follower percentage. I don't think Drake bought 27% bots, but I'm just saying the bots are on the internet. They're probably going after famous people. Whatever the use is, I don't know in that particular case. Gigi Hadid has 75% real followers. That person who I did that collaboration with for that event, for that dating app, her real follower percentage is 38.4%. So most of her followers are like bots. It's ridiculous. And just to give you by comparison, I've got a 90% real follower percentage. So I'm legit, and it's green, so that's a good thing. So anyway, if you're going to collaborate with a social media influencer, vet them for bots and with the tools discussed. Provide a service in exchange for a shout out, but don't pay them anything if you're going to do anything at all. But set expectations. Are they just going to shout you out in their story and it's going to expire in 24 hours? Are they going to put you in their post? Are they going to write a blog post? Make it clear that there's an obvious reference to the plastic surgery service that you're providing them in their photo. And I mentioned signed contract. I think that just having a conversation that's documented in an email is good. But if they don't really live up to the expectations, are you going to sue them? Probably not, but at least you tried. So you can do all of these things to try and increase the success of your collaboration, or don't do any of it at all, because I'm not so sure it really makes any difference with working with these social media influencers that really aren't that famous. So other ways to grow your following. Again, people will tell you to produce engaging content, high quality photos, blah, blah, blah. While you're at it, go viral. Another way to kind of help grow your following, albeit slowly, is you can like other people's posts and comment on it so that they reciprocate and like your post and comment. And so by more engagement with other people, then that keeps your picture, your post in the Instagram feed for longer so other people may notice it. The influencer pages and influencers that I mentioned, bots, I think you know how I feel about that. And the two new topics I want to mention are loop giveaways and like pods. So a loop giveaway is when basically a bunch of people are told to like all these accounts, follow all these accounts, and then you'll be entered to win an iPhone or a purse, or in the case that I did a loop giveaway with my wife, and it was a pair of Louboutin shoes. And this does engage people, and the thing that's good about it is that they are real people that are partaking in this. The downside may be that maybe they don't live in your community, maybe they're never going to be a patient of yours, but the idea is that by you having a lot of people follow you and tell their friends about it, is that there may be people in your neighborhood, in your community, that will notice it, that are considering cosmetic surgery, and then you'll capture them. So it could be very useful. It just all depends on what your goal is. If you're interested in doing loop giveaways, this is one loop giveaway that I found that's on WhatsApp. I haven't done a loop giveaway other than with my wife in like a year and a half, but they are a good way to grow your following quickly with real people. They just may not all come in to see you. Here's the granddaddy of all loop giveaways that I want to point out to you. So this is Kylie Jenner. She did a loop giveaway back around Mother's Day, where she said that if you enter this giveaway, you could win the chance to get 9 bags, 9 purses that are in the photo, 9 luxury bags, plus $20,000. So that's a big loop giveaway. The way to enter is, she said, go follow her ex-brother-in-law, Scott Disick. Go follow him. And you go to his page, and she says, go follow all of the people he's following. So he's following 70 people. So they're saying, if you follow all 70 of those people, then you'll be entered into the loop giveaway, and we'll choose a winner. And if you're the winner, you'll win 9 bags, $20,000. Now, the 70 people he's following, I wanted to show you a quick clip. These are all the 70 people that he was following for the purposes of this loop giveaway. So the idea is that the person who's entering had to go and follow each one of these people and all these screenshots. And the people that are in these screenshots, these are the people who are sponsoring the loop giveaway. They all had to put up $25,000 each to enter this loop giveaway. So you're thinking $25,000 to be a part of the loop giveaway, those 70 people, that's a lot of money. Well, if you're being exposed, you notice there was 2.2 million people had liked her photo. That's a lot of that's a lot of marketing that maybe if you look at how much you pay for Google AdWords and for TV marketing and things like that, 25 grand may actually be less expensive than all those traditional forms of marketing, and you're getting a lot more people this way. So all these people took part in the Loop giveaway just to get more exposure, each of them paying $25,000. And I want to point out this one person who I've blacked out. I'm actually not dogging this person. I'm not saying anything bad about him, because if I knew about this Loop giveaway, I might have taken part in it. But anyway, he's a plastic surgeon in California, so that's why I want to point him out. So he did this Loop giveaway, ostensibly paid 25 grand to be a part of it. The giveaway was on May 15th. So all, millions of people go start following all these 70 people. So on that day of the giveaway, he started with 10,921 followers. That's how much he started with. After the Loop giveaway was launched, he gained 219,000 followers in one day from this Loop giveaway. So that's a really quick way to grow your following. And you call it legitimate or not. They're not bots, they're real people. So he grew his following to 230,000 in one day. And he's down in Southern California. So you got to figure that some of these people that want these bags are probably in Southern California. So he's getting exposed to a lot of people. Anyway, but for the demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you how he's going to lose followers, just like I lost followers. And again, I'm not dogging on him. I'm just saying this is kind of the way Loop giveaways work. Because once they announce a winner, a lot of those people that were following you are going to stop following you because they didn't win and they aren't interested in what you have to offer. But some people are interested. So I started tracking him. On May 19th, he had 211 followers. So he'd already dropped from 230 to 211 in 4 days. Then on the 20th, he was down from 211 to 200,000 followers. You can see the followers up at the top. By the next day, he was down to 180,000 followers, 172, 165, 161, 158. So it's starting to fall slower. On the 26th, he was at 156. On the 27th, 154, 153, 151. And by yesterday, he was down to 149,000 followers. So he started at 230 on the 15th, and about 2 weeks later, he's down to 149. So as far as when I was tracking him, he was at 211,000 followers, down to 149,000 since the 19th. So he lost some followers, that's fine, but he still got 149,000 followers, and you got to imagine some of those in there are people interested in the services he provides. So the other way you can get some followers and grow your following is like pods. Like pods are, this actually gives me an opportunity to talk about something else. So when you post something on Instagram, you'll see how there's these two dots. You can have a post there. It's called a carousel. You can the consumer can swipe left and see another thing. This is like just a video. So that's a carousel that you can have. We can put before and after photos or multiple angles of before and after photos. So that's a carousel. But this is a post that I posted. And then what I did is if you click on this paper airplane icon, it shares, you have the opportunity to share it with a like pod. A like pod is a group of doctors or related people in whatever your industry is. And so I have these two like pods that I'm a part of. And so I shared that post with these two like pods, which is basically a glorified group thread, group text message. And so I share that post with everybody that's in my group like pod. It's all a bunch of doctors. And so what those doctors do, they then go like my post and comment on my post, because the way that Instagram algorithm works is that the more people that like and comment on your things in the first few minutes, that's a signal to Instagram that you've got a lot of engagement. And so they'll keep your post in the Instagram feed for longer, so more people will see it, and then hopefully more people will like it, more people will comment, and it'll just kind of keep and potentially make it go viral. So anyway, that's how a like pod works, as far as getting all your colleagues to like and comment, and you reciprocate with them to help get more people to see your post. Maybe some of their followers will see your post. And the idea is it just helps everybody to continue that engagement. There's another software you can use that I personally do not, called Fuelgram. It's like an automated like pod. Basically, instead of you having to manually share your post with all your friends and then them manually having to like and comment on your post and then them sharing their post with you, then Fuelgram automatically shares your post with everybody that's in the Fuelgram like pod, whoever that is. And then all those people automatically like and comment on your post. So that's Fuelgram. Basically, the idea is you fake it till you make it, that basically you have all these real people liking and commenting, and eventually you get so many likes and comments and followers that you then have really truly engaged people that are coming to you because they like you, not because you're part of a like pod or something like that. Anyway, but before doing any of these, think about what your goals are. You're trying to get real followers, then you can do like pods, you can do Loop giveaways, you can just provide great content, which is harder than it sounds. You can falsely inflate your numbers to inflate your ego, I guess. You can, in that way, you would, in that case, you get a bunch of bots, which does you no good. If you're trying to hit a milestone, like I was trying to get over 10,000 with Instagram, I did a loop giveaway and that helped. Overshot significantly, of course, but it did get me help me reach my goal. But also consider that depending on the technique that you use, these followers may never come to see you. A lot of those loop giveaway people may never come to see you. But if that doctor really paid 25 grand to be part of that loop giveaway with Kylie Jenner, I mean, in Southern California, how many operations does he have to do to make that worth it? I mean, it's like maybe 3 operations, maybe, or maybe 1 if he charges a lot. Maybe people think he's super famous and he just charges 1 operation and he will meet it. So the return on investment isn't as hard to do as you may think. I mean, compare one time of 25 grand to being exposed to all of Kylie Jenner's followers versus you spending a bunch of money on Yelp for advertising or spending a bunch of money on Facebook ads. I mean, to me, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Anyway, the other thing to consider is that Instagram is considering hiding the likes. I've already showed you how they've moved the followers down, made that smaller, made that less obvious. So they're talking about hiding the likes, kind of the way they already hide the number of views you get on a story. Like I can see how many people have viewed my story, but you can't. So they're already hiding that to some extent. And the other thing to consider is that the success of your post depends on that initial engagement. That's why like pods potentially work, because you have a lot of people liking your stuff initially. Whereas with if you just naturally post something, only 10% of your followers see it. So if you've got all bots, then they're not necessarily going to interact with that post. And then Instagram's algorithm will say, oh, well, 10% of his followers weren't interested in this, and they're going to basically get rid of your post, and it's not going to show up in anybody's feed. Nobody's going to see it. You're not going to get any engagement. So that's why you want to really consider that initial engagement before, depending on what you decide to do here. So in conclusion, does this work? Yes. I looked at all of my referrals in 2018, and I found that 30% of all my patients came from other patients. And in a close second, 1 percentage point behind, all of my referrals came from, 29% of my referrals came from social media. It's pretty significant. And then 12% came from other doctors, 50% came from internet search like Google, 4% from Yelp, 10% from ads. So you would like to think that if you're spending a bunch of money on ads, that would be a big proportion of your referrals. But in this case, 29% from social media is the second largest. Now, I would argue that it's tied with first place, 29% versus 30%. So social media is very effective at generating leads of people that come into your practice. So last thing, I want to go over 4 things of predictions. Social media in the operating room, which I know people are down on it. Social media in the operating room, that's going to become the norm, not just in cosmetic surgery, but this has a place in gynecology and general surgery and gastroenterology. People can use social media to educate the consumer. Patients are going to ask more about pricing in the future. I mean, for God's sakes, Trump was talking about releasing an executive order forcing people to disclose their prices this week. So if you're one of the few people that does show your pricing ahead of time, that'll give you that competitive edge, and it's a great way to generate leads and then build that huge email database. I can't stress this enough. You need a huge email database to protect you, to reduce your dependence on social media advertising or digital advertising, but also to protect you that if they change the algorithm, you still have something to show for it. And then lastly, transparency is the name of the game. Consumers want to see you. They want to see the real you. They want to see that you're approachable. They want to see you in the operating room. They want to see the procedure you're doing. And it's not unreasonable. I mean, why wouldn't you want to know more about whatever major decision you're gonna make? Why wouldn't you want more information to make that? Anyway, thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all being here. If y'all have any questions, I'm happy to take those questions now. You're obviously welcome to email me at my email address up on the screen. And of course, you can follow me at Real Dr. Bay on Snapchat and Instagram. Thank y'all so much for your time. I appreciate it.
What do you do when you have, let's say, a negative comment?
If it's like a legitimate negative comment and it's not just a personal attack, then I sometimes will answer that comment and post it so people can see that I'm willing to have an adult conversation about whatever it is. But if it's just a troll and they're saying something like really rude or really ridiculous, we can delete the comment. It's super easy. Since it's my account, I can delete those comments. Obviously, you can't delete a Yelp review, but with Instagram, a negative comment, you can delete that. But I really do try and answer those comments. Some of them are really reasonable, or it gives me an opportunity, even if it's not reasonable, it gives me an opportunity to take the high road and give a good answer that in my answer, I'm helping educate everybody that's reading those comments.
Are you able to track like how many people come in from that? Do you see results from that?
You can use whatever email marketing platform you use, whether it's MailChimp, Campaign Monitor, Constant Contact, Infusionsoft. There's all kinds of them out there. But you can see how many people open the emails. You can see how many people click on a particular thing. You can actually even see the actual email, the screen, and you can see these hot spots on the email, what people are mostly clicking on. It kind of collates it out. You can see most people are clicking on your YouTube link, or most people are clicking on your pricing link. So I can see all that, and I can see who opens it, I can see who clicks on it, as I mentioned, and then we can correlate that to who comes in, yes.